Hi guys, I know I've been really slow on this, but this is a guide on how to get started with doing your first orbital supply drops and element veins. So a couple of disclaimers before I go into my usual waffling. This guide is done with the assumption that you only have access to Extinction. I know there are cross-arc transfers on official servers now, but there's still going to be a lot of people who are on single map servers with no option to transfer. But anything I say here will be made easier with transfers, it's not going to discount anything from being done. Also, I am narrating over the top of footage I've taken previously. It's not something I prefer to do, but I'm going to have to speed up the actual fight footage because it takes so long. And I didn't really want to miss out on any information. So if it seems a bit weird compared to one of my normal videos, I do apologise. Right, so let's get into this. First of all, if you've been on Extinction for any length of time, you'll most likely have noticed or would have heard sounds like a rocket firing, or you'll randomly heard the sound of an earthquake and the arc do 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 do. Okay, I suck at singing, and also that looked really weird reading that off a script. The rocket sound is an orbital supply drop coming down, or an OSD, and you might be able to see a trail of smoke in the sky to see where it's going to land. But you'll most likely find them by looking around for a big column of smoke coming off the ground. You will learn places that they do spawn in sort of general areas, and they are in sort of batches. At the end of this video, I'm going to give a bit of an explanation into what I've found with that so far, but I don't want to overload with information right now. Now, these are the Extinction equivalent of supply drops that you get on other maps, except you get a lot more things in them, with the payoff being they're a lot harder and time consuming to access those things. Because what you're going to have to do is fight off waves of corrupted dinos. They have different difficulties, just like the supply drops, and these difficulties are defined by colour. Blue, yellow, red and purple is difficulty going from easiest to most difficult. Blue is easily soloable. You're going to see that in this video, and you should be able to get them very early on. Yellow is an order of magnitude harder. You're going to want at least a pack of Rexes and most likely some Velonosaurs. Red is an order of magnitude above that, and we're talking a lot of really strong dinos need to defend it. Purple is, oh fuck no, not even going there. Seriously, I don't even know if it's viable to do that solo without cheating. You can tell the colour of a drop by looking at it, but you want to be using a spyglass to actually look at it, because if it's a really dangerous drop, you don't want to get so close to trigger it off and then have dinos coming in. And they are triggered by proximity to them. With regards to the loot, even with a blue drop, you're going to get some nice blueprints, some building supplies, stacks of resources, and most importantly, you're going to get cryopods. Later on in the red drops and higher, potentially, you'll be getting blueprints for things like the mechs and really nice stuff as well. Before I talk about the element veins, which are very similar but slightly different, I want to show you the simplest way I can think of to complete a blue drop. For this, I'm just going to use a dire bear that was tamed at roughly level 145, I believe, plus or minus 5 levels, and I've put a fair amount of health and melee on it. I've also got a primitive pump action shotgun and a primitive simple pistol. These are useful for the pteranodons that are going to be spawning, and they can be a little bit annoying, and it's easy to take them out from a distance. I have got a stacking mod on the server on which I recorded this, but that's the only thing that will really change anything. That's because basically I'm lazy. So that's why you'll see lots of meat on the bear's inventory. I don't actually use much of it, and I would recommend taking a few hundred cooked meat to eat in between waves, as you will be in the open with other creatures too. When you approach a drop, it will eventually spawn a shield around it and start the waves mechanic. I've honestly never figured out any rhyme or reason to how long it takes for this to happen. Sometimes it happens as soon as you get close enough, sometimes you're waiting for a minute or two. Once it does spawn the shield, you do have some protection, as any wild creature trying to get into the shield will have to take its health down to 0 first. Now, at this point here, if you're not comfortable, then don't do the step that I'm about to do, which is to remove the shield. There is method behind my madness on this. On blue drops, the creatures are usually no bigger than a trike or a stego, and their levels are fairly low, but most of the time they are raptors and dinos. And I've often found that when they stack up against the shield, they can get stuck in nooks and crannies of the landscape. With a decent bear, you'll be nuking anything that comes in for the drop, and you should even be able to take care of any bigger creatures that are spawning, such as Rexes and Spinos, even corrupted ones. This just makes it more time efficient, because what you're going to see in a moment is that you actually spend a lot of time waiting around on these blue drops. Whether or not you drop the shield, what you're now going to do is wait for creatures to turn up. Now, if the shield is up, obviously you're going to be going around the outside of the shield looking for the creatures. But if it's down, you're going to wait for them to come in towards the drop. The reason that I like to take a dire bear for a blue drop is that you can actually damage the drop with your creature. And although a big carnivore would make you safer, they have a much larger attack range, and you're far more likely to destroy the drop with damage if you have an uber duper mega Rex than if you've got a dire bear. Also, for the smaller creatures, it's nice to be able to run for quite a long time and attack things on the go with a dire bear. Even with the shield down, the absolutely longest and possibly most dangerous part of doing a blue drop is when you get down to 1 or 2 creatures left and they're nowhere in sight. Then it's just a case of waiting, and sometimes they're just taking their sweet time to turn up, but most likely what they've done is they've gone ADD and are chasing a Pteranodon or Parasaur halfway across the map. Unfortunately, it's just a case of waiting until they either turn up or get themselves killed. But this is actually, ironically, the most dangerous time, because you don't get hugely dangerous creatures coming in, and they're not hugely high level. But as you clear the area, which you're going to be doing for the drop, you'll actually find that, if it's an area where Rexes and Spinos spawn, you'll get Rexes and Spinos spawning like right next to a blue drop, which seems a bit silly to me, but obviously they can spawn, in most places. And I actually found quite a few even when I was recording the footage that you're seeing. So it's just a case of fighting through all the waves and waiting for creatures to turn up or either get themselves killed. What I'll do is I'll speed for the footage so you can just see an example of what you would be fighting on a blue drop. I'll obviously cut out any times I'm sitting there waiting for ages for things to turn up. And then I'll just show you actually getting the blue drop, and I'll finish off by talking about element veins and a little bit about where things spawn. So I'm just going to speed up this footage and I'll talk to you once it's done. Once you've completed the waves, you just press your use button on the drop and it will spit out a load of items. There will be a lot of buildings materials, so be prepared to bin them if you don't have the carrying capacity. On your first drop, your main priority is most likely going to be getting your cryopods and your first decent blueprints. Once you have a few cryopods, it becomes a lot easier to do both the drops and to cart things home. You can fly out there, throw down a creature you want to use, and then pull out more creatures to carry supplies. As you can see from the footage, the bear was able to deal with anything that came in for the waves, and it handily dealt with the Rexes that spawned in. So, now onto the element veins. Just like with the supply drops, the element veins have got difficulty levels as well. You tell the difficulties by looking at the health of the central spire. The equivalent of a blue drop is 1000 health, although we have seen 6000 as well near the city occasionally. They seem to be the same difficulty. A yellow equivalent is 25,000 health and a red is 50,000. I'm not absolutely 100% sure about the purple equivalent, so I'm not going to put information in this video that might be wrong. The element veins have a wave mechanic like the supply drops, but rather than you having a shield and trying to protect just the central spire, you're trying to protect the entire element vein. All areas of it are open to attack by waves of creatures that come in, and all areas of it can be damaged by your creatures too. This makes the higher level element veins far more annoying to solo protect than the higher level supply drops. You can easily complete a low level element vein with just a dire bear or some enforcers. The trick is just not to damage too many of the nodes while hunting and killing enemies. I actually find it far more efficient to stick to doing low level veins and clearing out the higher level ones by triggering off the first wave of enemies and then skedaddling out of there. Once they're destroyed, it will trigger off a new orbital supply drop or element vein to spawn. Which nicely leads me into the last bit of the video, the spawning mechanics for these things. There appears to be 4 groups in which the supply drops and the element veins will spawn in, and within one of these groups there will always be a supply drop or an element vein up. Once you complete one of these element veins or one of these supply drops, another one will spawn, and it will be almost instantaneous. I mean, within a minute you'll hear a rocket coming down, or you'll go around and you'll see one of the veins is up. These areas appear to be around the snow biome to the northeast of the map, around the desert biome to the southeast of the map. There appears to be one to the northwest of the map, around the entrance to the underground forest area and directly west of the city. And there appears to be another one down in the southwest of the map in the really hot, horrible area. As I said, they will respawn a minute one is done, and if you kind of want to get, say, just blue drops or just low level element veins, you can trigger them off and let them go through. Although do be aware that if you, say, trigger off a red or a purple, that's going to be some really nasty creatures hanging around. So personally, I just let them decay naturally. Right guys, so I hope that was a useful introduction to getting your first supply drops and element veins. If you've got any questions or you've got any feedback, please do drop them down into the comments section. Also apologise for the birds chirping in the background. It's very early morning when I'm recording this. Essentially, once you're able to get yourself a good creature like a dire bear, you should be on the road to progression of A, getting yourself better drops, better creatures, and B, getting yourself the cool extinction specific things like the cryopods, the cryofridges and things like that. Have fun guys, I hope this was useful. Catch you all soon. Bye.